I had like an image of me kneeling in the presence of God, like in the throne room of God, and around like what I was praying to kind of give it some understanding. What I was praying was basically, how do I keep my focus on you when life is always so crazy? Because my life is always so crazy for some reason. And I was like, God, how do I, like, it's easy sometimes to keep my eyes on you, but then it's so easy to take it off. Like, how do I keep my eyes on you when everything is just constantly coming at me all the time?
Hello and welcome to Holy Culture's Artist Spotlight. I'm Jay, your host. With me today is Megan Tossi. Hi Megan, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Good. I am so excited because I found Megan on Threads. I decided that I was going to get on Threads one time, and it's actually wild over there. So if you're a Christian and you're looking for community, head over to Threads. It's usually pretty chill over there. But yeah, I saw Megan and she started posting, and then I started posting, and I was like, let me talk to Megan online for Holy Culture. So for those who don't know, who is Megan Tossi? Tell me.
Yeah, so Megan Tossi, that's me. I am 27 years old. I am a Christian hip hop artist located near Orlando, Florida, in Sanford. And yeah, I'm always grinding, always putting stuff out, trying to be relatable, vulnerable, because I feel like it's very important to, just not always look like you're perfect.
So tell us a little bit about what your life was before Jesus. Where did Jesus find you?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, my family started going to church when I was like 7. So I kind of always had him present for the most part in my life, but it wasn't until I was around 12 that I actually received him as, my Lord and Savior. And then a year later is when I realized there's more to your faith than just going to heaven and not going to hell. So once I realized that, then I officially surrendered my life to him. It was like, there's so much more to it than just going to heaven. And that's when I learned that, and it was life-changing. So that's basically where it all started.
And so you said it was life-changing. Like that's a pretty big statement because you were young. And so like I'm thinking about my 12-year-old self. I didn't do a whole lot of living before then, but you said it was life-changing. How was that?
Yeah, it was life-changing because like around that time I was going through like extreme anxiety and paranoia from like the age 8 to around that time when I was like 12 or 13. And I just, everything in my life was just chaotic all the time because of what I was dealing with internally. And so once I like surrendered to God, like everything just started getting better in that aspect. And then I started having clarity more and realizing there was a greater purpose for my life. It wasn't just, like I'm just going to be suffering forever with this internal battle. And it just kind of freed me a lot from that fear. So yeah.
That's beautiful. And that's beautiful and great because that around that area, that age is so pivotal. You're going through so much stuff already. And if you're already dealing with struggles, to have that freedom, it kind of,
Yeah.
helps you out the rest of the way. So what about your music? Have you always been musical? Where did music come into your life?
Yeah, yeah, so honestly, like my whole life I've been a writer, but I never thought I would do anything with it because I was always an athlete. So, but I've always wrote poetry. I always thought it was so beautiful and just really cool. And rap is very similar to poetry. It's basically the same thing. It just has a beat over it. So, and it's just worded a little different a lot of times. But, yeah, I mean, as far as when I officially started being serious about music, like as far as hip hop goes, that's when I was about 20, 21. But my whole life I was writing, and when I got around the age 13, 14, I started writing hip hop lyrics just to help me cope with life because I was getting bullied a lot and I just needed to, put it out somewhere. So as a writer, you put it on paper. So that's what I was doing. And but I never thought it would go anywhere until I realized in my early 20s I could actually do something with it. And that's when I actually started recording. So, yeah.
Okay, so let's go back. I know that you've been on Holy Culture before, but I was like blind, deaf, and dumb. I was trying not to listen in on your previous interviews. I was like, la 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 la. I don't want to hear it. I want to hear it from the horse's mouth. So tell us a little bit about your bullying, if you can, if you feel comfortable. I think that it would be helpful for a lot of girls watching.
Yeah, that's a good question. Honestly, with bullying, like my whole life, to some extent, I dealt with it. It got a little worse towards middle school, which I feel like is usually how it works. Like when I was a kid, it was more like racially involved because where I was more of the minority a lot of times, so I got made fun of for my color a lot, which also made me hate myself for my color. So there was this whole battle I had when I was younger with that. But then also it was just people would call me like, you know, kind of ditzy and dumb and all these things because I was a little like, I guess kind of blonde if you want to put it that way, you know, but I was a kid, so you're kind of sometimes like that when you're young. And so I just dealt with that a lot. And some of it was kind of brutal though. Like sometimes kids told me that they basically wish I was dead and stuff like that. So I dealt with a lot of like more brutal bullying too. But thankfully like I had God during it all because if not, I don't know, man. It was hard even with God. So, but for the most part, when I was younger, a lot of it was just based off those things, and just kind of people thinking I was stupid and stuff like that, and just not believing in me. Um, and even like leaders and adults would do it and encourage it. So it was something that really was difficult for me because, you know, when you have a leader, you know, doing that and encouraging it, it's believable to a kid. So that was something that really messed with me a lot. And I started seeing myself through the lens that they were putting over me. And I'm still breaking out of some of that still because it's a lifelong thing that I dealt with. So, but I'm definitely gotten a lot better with it. So,
Well, I'm sorry that you got bullied. I too got bullied.
yeah,
I was shoved into trash cans and
no,
yeah, and I got gum put in my hair. Not to the extent that you were. I feel like as technology has progressed, like kids have gotten meaner, you know?
yeah.
But like I grew up in the late 90s, and so
Well,
it was
that's
kind of
hard
different, but
though. The trash can and stuff, that sucks. I had food thrown at me, but I didn't have like the trash can. But I did have food thrown in my face, and I was like, "What the heck, bro? Like, eat your food. Like, your
stop
food.
wasting food.
Put it in my face. I mean, hey, I'll eat it. Just give it to me. Like, what we doing here? That's hard though. That's embarrassing. I'm sorry about
Yeah.
that. I hate
No,
that.
it's okay. You know, hey, but like, I'm so glad that you had the Lord and that writing was an outlet for you. And so, were you then, if you were the minority, so you were around African Americans, I'm assuming, or around a black community, is that where the love of hip hop came from, or was
Yeah.
that previous?
So like, really, it was. So Central Florida is kind of full of everything. So I was really around like a lot of Hispanics, African Americans. For the most part, it was those two. And then of course white people too. That was the main like thing that I was around. Ethnically or however you want to say that culturally. And yeah, like I feel like because there was such a diversity around me, I was always like around hip hop or reggaeton or something like that, and I always just latched on to that. My parents didn't like it because in their heads they grew up, you know, with hip hop being bad and negative and degrading and all that, so they always discouraged it and always were like, "No, you can't listen to hip hop." And I was like, "I'm gonna listen to hip hop. I don't know what you're," but I was also a goody two shoes. So I was like, dang, they said I can't listen to hip hop, but I can't resist this, bro. Like, and it was just something that was always like around. And then I started finding out about DC Talk and like, you know, like the OGs of CHH, you know, like Lecrae, Toby Mag, Ritz, you know, Rubon Crew. And I was like, hey, there's Christian hip hop. So, but my parents
Does
still
that
didn't like
count?
it. But I convinced them eventually. You know, parents just overprotective sometimes, and mine definitely were. But it's always had, it's always had like a deep root in me for some reason. I don't know. I never can explain it. It's just always been a part
Yeah.
of what I've loved, and I guess being around it also probably impacts that too when you hear it a lot. So
Yeah, DC Talks Jesus Freak in my
yeah, that
house.
was bro.
My
That
mom barged into my room. So, what are you listening to? I was
yeah,
like, it's Christian. See, it says Jesus Freak.
Yeah, I used to be like on the swing set listening to that song with my MP3 player, and I was like, "What would people?" And then I would be rapping that song, and my mom's probably like, "This girl's crazy, man. Like, what is she doing over here?" But at first, they're like,
God,
"Oh, that's not good," and then they realized, "Oh, it's actually not bad lyrics. Maybe it's fine." So,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
but
God bless DC Talk. Toby Mac, God bless you.
uh, I
All right, so talk about the moment where you figure out that you could rap. What was that like?
Yeah, that's actually funny because most of my life I never thought I could. I mean, what I would do is secretly I was cringe, but secretly when everybody was gone from the house, that's when you could be yourself. So like when you're a kid especially. So that's when we had like our little stereo with like the four CDs you could put and they just rotate and then I don't even know if you know what that I'm talking about, but
I
we
did.
had one of those
Yeah.
and I would put on like Lecrae or Toby Mac, and I would start rapping to the pillows in my living room. And I was like, "Let's do this, bro! Like, let's go!" And so, or I pretend I was Blanca, like from Group One Crew or something. Like I used to do that when I was like a kid, but I didn't think I was good. I thought I was trash, so I just thought I was being stupid and having fun. But it wasn't until my sister's at the time boyfriend, he was like, I'm sure you probably could rap. He's like, you talk really fast, and I was like, but I'm a white girl. He was like, no, you could probably, and he was a rapper at the time. He was a Christian rapper. So I was like, so he never realized it, but him just saying that planted a seed in me. Because I never had people speaking positive things into me. So whenever I got it, I like soaked it up and was like, oh my gosh, someone finally said something to me. Maybe I should like consider this. So like I received it with like, this is probably never gonna happen, but maybe in the back of my head type of thing. And then years later, that thought kept coming back to me, and eventually I just realized that it was something I could do. So basically, that seed that was planted and I put in the back of my head, years later, that thought resurfaced, and I kind of just captured that and went with it. Um, and basically, I think I just honestly, people would just tell me like I had some lady at my church wanted me to rap a song, and people were like, "Oh, you can rap," and it was just stuff like that, like people at church or different like random things I wasn't planning. It was always something like that, like where people were like, "Oh, can you rap this? I wrote this thing. I want you to rap it for me," and like it just kind of happened, and it was something I wasn't really looking for. So, but I feel like
Yeah.
that happened. So,
And so you have, so I was looking at your Spotify thing. It says your first single was 2021, or was there music before that?
So as far as releasing, yeah, that was my first song. I did make some songs before that I'd never released, and I'm very happy I didn't because it was terrible, even though I thought it wasn't. So, and even some of my earlier songs I still cringe to, but people like them for some reason, so they're still there. But, but, but yeah, that was my first official song. Was the first day of the year in 2021 because it was
And
perfect that on a Friday, so I was like, perfect, let's do it.
and
So
you've been an independent artist the whole time because right now you're with Doc Watson, R&P
yeah,
Management, right?
Yeah, RMG Amplify. Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
like I'm still technically like independent. RMG Amplify is more of like I'm independent and not at the same time. So like it's a co-label, so they're a label and I'm a label, so we kind of work
Gotcha.
together. Yeah, so it's like I'm not like a full-on signed
Hmm.
artist like Lecrae and Reach Records or something like that,
Right,
but
right.
it's like I'm not completely independent either. So it's
Gotcha.
one of those
Right,
things.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, Doc is great. We
Awesome.
love him.
Yeah,
And,
he's great.
and so okay, so you had two releases in 2021. We had 4 releases in 2022, according to Spotify. In
Yeah.
2023, you are on a roll. You had like 15 releases. What was that
Really?
year like?
Yo,
Yeah.
that's crazy. Dang, when was 2023? That was like 2 years ago, right? Wow,
Yeah.
time goes by. Oh, can you list me the first single from that year? I'm trying to remember what I released
Mhm.
that year. I don't know
I
if
don't
you
know.
see.
I was like, wow, she was on a roll that year.
Bro, you know what's crazy though? Like, I think I released more the other years, but I low key deleted some of them songs because I was like, trash, bro. I'm gonna put these on. Like,
You're like trash, trash,
I was like,
trash. We're
I kind
like,
of want.
no, it's good. Oh, my Spotify isn't
I
working.
want to say 2023. That was not last year, but the year before.
Uh,
I'm trying to remember
yeah,
what I
yeah.
released that year. I think I released a song called "Let Me Get Right" or something like that. Oh gosh, I should know this off the top of my head. I don't know why I don't, but basically, I think I remember that year. For that year, yeah, now I remember. I'm sorry, I was tripping. Um, I'm scatterbrained sometimes. But did you want me to wait for you? Sorry.
So it says, oh, I see. There was a lot. Be real.
Oh yeah, Be Real. Shotgun probably was one of the first songs that year.
Mm-hmm.
Shotgun. Yeah. Okay, I remember now. That's a good.
Yeah,
That's good,
Dragonfly, Pray for Me, It Isn't Me, Ella Won't Prevail, Jealousy, and it goes on. So
bro.
you were
Yeah,
just like pumping them
that year
out.
a grind. So basically, I mean, every year is a grind, but I feel like every year is like a different type of year. And that year, it was like get out as much as possible type of thing. And last year it was more of like I'm working on my album low key, so I'm gonna get out what I can type of thing. And this year my album released, so
All
it's
right.
one of the things. But 2023 was like the year before I even thought about doing an album, so I was just releasing I think twice a month or once a month or something, as much as possible for like what was my circumstances in my life, because my health issues sometimes can make it a little difficult to do things. But yeah, I mean, I honestly just met some people in the space that were also helping elevate me and helping encourage me. So we were working together. My bro Forever, if you look, you probably see a bunch of releases with him that year. I think just having people you meet in this space encourage you, and to just help give you advice. I was taking a lot of that advice that year and just grinding, man. I was like, I need to get this thing going. Like I was like, I'm done. Like being where I'm at, let's go. And I think that year I started being more confident too. So it was
Mhm.
kind of one of those years of like, I think I get what I'm doing more now. Let's go for it type of thing. And last year was more strategic, with the album. And yeah, I feel like every year's different for me. It's really interesting how that works.
Yeah.
So
But I feel like you have like a lot going on because you're still working and
yeah,
making music, right? And
it's a
then you
lot.
have your
Yeah.
health issues. And so can you talk a little bit about that? Like balancing your health versus work and being an artist? Like that's a lot just on its own.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. I'm actually happy you mentioned that because I feel like most people don't realize the life of an artist is not what you think it is, at least if you're not full time. So, as much as I want to be full time, I'm not. So currently, yeah, I work a full time job. I'm actually working a mandatory overtime month right now, and I am very all over the place about there's a lot. I have 50 hours this week, 50 hours last week. It's just so much going on. But I'm blessed to have a job, and so I do that. I have a chronic illness called Crohn's disease, and that makes everything difficult. Like every day, I deal with it. So it's like also hard because I know I could do so much more if I didn't have that. But I also had to remember that God is in control, and He allowed me to have it for a reason. So I shouldn't be upset at myself for not being able to do what I know I could do. Because I only got sick like 10 years ago, so I've lived healthy before. And so it's weird to know I can't do things like I used to.
Mm.
But basically, just with all of that going on, and even I drum at my church, and I just try to stay involved in the CHH scene in Orlando because there's a lot going on. So there's a lot going on. And then my own stuff, like content, be taking forever to edit, and to do. And I'm very deep in the way I do things. So I take way too much time on everything. And, and in recording and all of that. But I believe it's going to pay off because I really honestly I believe I'm doing two full-time jobs right now because music really does take that much time for me, but it's because I'm serious about it. And I believe that hard work pays off, and also the Bible says like you'll be exalted in due time. Like we just got to be humble, we got to keep our eyes on Christ and just not let the discouragement or comparison stop you, because that is a real battle, honestly, especially in when you're making music, because you see everyone else around you and you're like, dang, how do I get there, and so try not to keep your eyes on that and just focus on God. So
Yeah. So speaking of Lecrae, he did a song like gosh a bazillion years ago, and like a lyric in that song always speaks to me, and it's like comparison kills calling. And
Yeah.
especially like if you're like a woman in the space, like I feel like
Oh
that could
yeah.
be amplified, right? Um, so yeah, but it's a grind. So I was talking to Caleb Gordon a couple weeks ago,
Oh,
and
he's cool.
he was just talking about like what it took to get him there, and he was saying that he would post like 7 times a day,
Yeah.
seven videos a day for years, and I
Yeah.
was like, I can't even wrap my head around that. Like
Wow, for years is
for
crazy.
years, it
I
was
didn't
like,
know that.
yeah, I think he said it was like 3 years or something like that, and I
Seven
was like,
videos is wild. It's like 21 a week. That's
there you go. And so like now we see where he's at, but that's where he was then. He went from influencer to musician um to what he's doing now, which is amazing. But yeah, so it's a grind for sure. And
yeah,
so
it's worth it.
so you said you were tapping into the Orlando scene. Is that where your relationship with Jake Soul came in? Because I saw that she was on your album, giving you a special shout out. Tell
Yeah.
us about that.
Oh, I love her. So, what's kind of cool is I didn't know she was in Orlando at first. So basically, when I first started, before I even started releasing music, I would be watching the Rapzilla critique Friday night things just to see like what was going on. And they kind of listen to songs and critique them. And I remember OB was always talking about the importance of engineering. That's where I got that from and all that. I actually learned a lot from watching those before I released my own stuff. But I would see her on there and they would be critiquing her songs like, "Yo, this girl's fire, blah blah." And I'm like, this girl's cool. So I followed her from there. Then I realized she's from Florida, not far from me. And I think I hit her up a few times because I'm kind of an upfront person, so I just talk to people and I probably annoy them sometimes, but I try not to. But anyways, I hit her up and she probably was like, "Who's this girl? This white chick talking to me?" I hit her up and we were just, I just asked her some questions sometimes about like, how do you do this? How'd you get into this? Just at first asking her basic questions because I didn't really know a lot yet. And over the years, I think it's just like it just kind of started becoming like a friendship. Because God's put us in the same places, same rooms. And because of that, we've talked more in person. We've connected in person. I saw her randomly one time walking somewhere. I'm like, "Yo, Jessica, what are you doing here?" So, because we're local. So, over the years, I think God just kind of ordained a relationship through it. And now she's like my sister. And she's honestly a really good person. And she's definitely very real. And so sometimes, like I'll even text her and be like, "Hey, can you pray for me?" And so from that video snippet on my album is one of those prayers because I was having a hard time. I can't remember exactly what it was, but she prayed for me and it really impacted me. And I was like, this is perfect for the album. So yeah, honestly, I feel like sometimes in the music space, like you won't even realize something's gonna become a relationship, and it does. It's just how it works. And I'm happy though because she's a cool person and she's definitely like has a good heart and she's really dope. Like I'm like this girl's cool, like for real. She's really cool.
Yeah, she's
And she's
great.
really talented.
That's awesome. And I'm so glad that you guys found each other, two great women in CHH. So that's always nice to have that sisterhood there together.
Yeah.
So that's a perfect segue to your album. Fixate has now officially released. Let's start off and I know you've talked about it on social, but let's put it here on the record. Talk to us about the cover. The cover has a story. Tell us the story about the cover.
Yeah, that's a good question. So, this is actually before I knew the album was going to be about what it was. So when I don't know if you know, but I had a house fire about 2 years ago, almost 2 years, like a year and a half ago. The end of July will be 2 years, so about 2 years. And so I was house hopping because I didn't have anywhere to live really, like stably at least. And I was at my mentor's house. So, anyways, this is the backstory. I don't know why I had to tell you all that, but basically, I was praying in her house because her house is very quiet, and I was like, "This is nice. I can like just chill and not have everyone in the background." So I was just praying, and I felt like the Holy Spirit was just like, "Just stop, pray, just sit here in my presence," type of thing. And sometimes that's hard to do, and I was like, "Okay, let's do it." So when I did that, he just showed me like an image. I don't know if it's a vision or what, but it was kind of I think I also was like praying about the album as well around that time because I felt on my heart around that time to make one. And so basically I had like an image of me kneeling in the presence of God, like in the throne room of God. And around, like, what I was praying, to kind of give it some understanding, what I was praying was basically, how do I keep my focus on you when life is always so crazy? Because my life is always so crazy for some reason. And I was like, God, how do I, like, it's easy sometimes to keep my eyes on you, but then it's so easy to take it off. Like, how do I keep my eyes on you when everything is just constantly coming at me all the time? Like, how do you do that? Even if I'm just busy, like, you know what I mean? It's just hard. And so that was my prayer, and that's when he gave me that vision. I was just kneeling at his in his, the throne room of God, looking at him with my eyes on him, and there was all these motions going around trying to take my eyes off of him, because it's very easy for that to work. But then the presence of God was like pushing me towards him. So like, instead of letting all of the chaos like take my gaze off of him, the presence of God was keeping my focus on him, even though all that stuff was still there. So I remember seeing that image, and I was like, I cannot draw, God, but I'm gonna try. So I drove. It was so bad. I cannot draw. I drew it so I wouldn't forget, because I will forget if I don't. And I was like, this might be my cover art. But it was such a powerful image, because it literally, like, an image speaks volumes sometimes more than words do. And it just showed me, like, man, like, it's such a spiritual battle, and that's kind of how I got it. So,
Well, it's beautiful. It's beautiful and I love it. And like I remember watching like the social pieces that you did about it, and it was like I was like, wow, I was like, that's really powerful, and it turned out beautiful. So yeah, so it works. So your album, you were saying, you were telling me before we came on here that it was very intentional as far as like the order of the song. So talk to us about kind of like um the journey that you're trying to take the listener on as they're listening to Fixate.
yeah. By the way, I appreciate you asking me these questions. It means a lot. Not everyone like thinks about that. So, but yeah, as an artist, we're usually very intentional with things, even though not everyone catches it. But with the order of the album, I kind of wanted to take people through, like, just, I feel like the journey we all go through in life. I feel like every human goes through this, where it's like your eyes are on God, but then they get taken off of him because something crazy happens, or even a series of crazy things happen. So then you're like trying to make out, who is God, how is he who he is, if this is going on, all of this. And like, how do I not be upset with him? All of those emotions, right? And then pointing you back to him. So basically, that's kind of the order, is starting off with my eyes are on God. But then chaos kind of happens, right? And there's just so much tragedy, which I highlight in a lot of these songs. And some of the songs, my eyes are not on him as much, and some of them they are. But you can see the struggle that I'm expressing in the songs of like, how do I keep my eyes on you? Like, I don't understand what's going on, but I know you're good still, stuff like that. And some songs with no resolve, some songs I do have resolve, just to highlight the moments we have with God that are genuine, because we're not always so faithful like people think. Um, and then it kind of brings me back into warfare mode. After the second interlude, basically is when I start getting like, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. I'm done with this crap. Let's get pushing. You know what I mean? I'm done being in defeat all the time. Let's go. And then it just kind of goes after that into a worshipful state. So I guess that kind of highlights, I feel like, a lot of our life. It's like your eyes are on God, terrible things happen, you're kind of confused about, is God really who he is? Or I know he is who he is, but I'm having a hard time believing it. And then you get kind of out of that, and now you're fighting to maintain who God is, and then in your head, and then you kind of have victory, and then you're worshiping more happily again, right? So that's kind of the order, because I feel like that's kind of what we all go through in a cycle sometimes. And I feel like, yeah, I don't know if that makes sense, but that's kind of how I do it. So I'm not always the best
Yeah.
explainer, though.
No, it was great. It was great. And so I was trying to kind of nail down like the difference in your sound. So you have a very distinctive voice. Nobody sounds like you, right?
Yeah,
Which is, you have like this very throaty, raspy, breathy thing you got going on. It's wonderful. Your earlier stuff was very
cringe.
energetic. What?
Nothing. I said cringe. I'm joking. Sorry.
It wasn't cringe. No, it was great. But it was like very energetic, very young, and I feel like this is more like a more mature sound. and there's kind of like softer undertones that work with I don't want to say the harshness of your voice, because I feel like your voice is very balanced. You have like soft tones, and then you have like your rough edges that you can get really rough if you want to with your bars. But I feel like this is a very grown up album, and I was like, oh, this is good. Like this
I,
is good, and like the softness that you have, the undertones that are in there, is really great. So I think that you did a really good job on your album. So if you need something different for your playlist, warfare is up your alley and you need something to kick your butt, check out Fixate by Megan Tossi. Totally
yeah,
recommend. So now that you have your album out and you're still, working and grinding, what are you working on next? What's your next project?
yeah. So I am working on just a range of singles right now. I'm not working currently on an album, although I do want to get an EP or an album out sometime, not too long from now. But I do think I need a little break from album mode because that stuff be tiring. Probably not too long of a break though, because I love albums honestly more than singles. They're really fun to me. Um, but currently I am working on a song, hoping to release it very soon. And like I said, a range of singles as well. Trying to get out quite a few more songs this year. So I'm not, I'm sitting on the album for a little bit, but I'm also gonna still throw out some other songs this year and be intentional with them. So yeah.
Beautiful. Okay, Megan, tell us where we can find your music and where we can get in touch with you.
Yeah, so you can find my music on all platforms, Spotify, Apple, anywhere you can think of, YouTube, anywhere under Megan Tossi, MEGANTOSSI. And I have an album called Fixate that I just released. I think it's lit. It's got 15 songs. And what was the other question? Sorry.
Where can people find you on socials?
Oh yeah, and on social media, it's the same thing. Megan Tossi on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Threads, same thing. All over. Honestly, it's all the same. So you can find me anywhere under Megan Tossi.
Awesome. Thank you, Megan, for hanging out with me and talking to us about your new album.